the D23 Expo just happened. It's probably the single biggest Disney event in the world. And I got to be there. I was there for all 3 days and saw a lot of stuff. However, I am well aware that most people can't go for a variety of reasons. So I thought I would bring you all along and show you everything that happened while I was there. I'll give you the stuff I liked, the stuff I didn't like, and my general thoughts on the expo. Then you can come to your own conclusions about the event and decide if it's maybe for you or not. Don't take this as any definitive review. These are just one YouTuber's opinions. But first, D23 was formed in 2009 as the official Disney fan club. Members of the club would get insider looks at the goings-on of the Walt Disney Company and all of its subsidiaries. Membership perks included things like access to exclusive web content, a quarterly magazine, and annual gifts like pins and other souvenirs. Members also have the opportunity to participate in special ticketed events like tours of Disney-related places or special events at the Disney parks. The biggest event by far is the biannual D23 Expo, a large convention held at the Anaheim Convention Center in Anaheim, California. The event includes things like the Disney Legends ceremony, special panels dedicated to Disney history and the people that make it happen, and perhaps most importantly, presentations outlining future Disney projects. It's like Comic-Con, but just for Disney stuff. I've been wanting to go to D23 since I first learned it existed. I became a D23 member just for the chance to go to one of these events eventually. I joined in 2019, around the time I started getting serious with this whole YouTube thing. So I think instinctively, I knew I'd end up making this video eventually. The next expo was originally scheduled for 2021, but then the world ended, so it got pushed back to 2022. So this is the first D23 expo to happen since the Panini, and it's my first one too. However, I think I come at this from a different place than other Disney YouTubers might, because I love conventions. I've been to a bunch of them, both big and small. I don't know if you've been able to pick up on this, but I like a lot of nerdy stuff. And most of the time I feel like I never have an outlet to channel all of that energy into. Like I don't have many IRL friends who are into the same stuff as I am, so I never get to gush about it with others. So going to conventions, when I'm surrounded by people who like a lot of the same stuff that I do, it's basically heaven. I think Veritas Joe summed it up best when he said, "You could be a socially awkward, media-consuming sponge for a weekend without anyone judging you for it." So while this is my first D23, it's not my first convention experience by far. And naturally that's going to affect how I view this, so I want to make that clear. Also, let me make something else clear. I'm not sponsored by Disney. No one's paying me to make this video. I'm not trying to sell you something. This is just me talking about my experiences at the expo. And again, you can draw your own conclusions from there. We got our tickets back in January when they went on sale. The badges came straight to us sometime over the summer. I don't exactly remember when. As the months went on, we began to learn more about the major panels. That's to be expected. Conventions I've been to usually don't have the entire schedule laid out until a few weeks before the show starts. And even then, they're still adding and removing things right up to the last second. The panel schedule was laid out on the D23 website about a month before the show began. The printable version is what I found to be the most helpful. You could see all of the panels at once and plan your day accordingly. However, the specifics weren't really released until about a week before the con. Some only came out a few days before. Like, the panel announcements didn't tell you who was gonna be there, and they didn't release them until after the pre-registration for the panels had ended. So if you didn't register for that panel, but someone you really wanted to see was there, you'd just have to chance it in standby. And on that note, pre-registration. It's kind of like a fast pass or a reservation. It's just a guarantee that you'll get into a panel that you want. In previous years, it was apparently on a first-come, first-served basis. But this year, they changed it to a lottery system. You signed up for the panels and meet and greets you wanted, and then you were selected for some of them. But again, if you didn't get the ones you wanted, you could still go into standby and try to get in that way. The reservations came in about a week before the convention. I was pretty happy with my choices, and I even got the panel I was dying to go to. However, since it was randomized, your mileage may vary. I saw people who got a lot of big panels. I saw some who got like just the giveaways. To be honest, I'm not sure if I prefer the randomized system or the first come first serve system. There's a lot less pressure with the lottery, and it doesn't just benefit the people who got online first. But with first come first serve, you were at least guaranteed to get what you wanted. Anyways, we packed a few days before we left, hopped on the plane, landed at LAX, and made it to Anaheim a night before the convention. I got to the convention nice and early. The doors opened at 9 and I left around 7:30. Before I got to the Anaheim Convention Center, I had to go through security. If you know how the parks do security, it's basically the same. Bag check, metal detector, done. On your way in, you could grab a bag, a program, and a lanyard, which were all complimentary. You know, a lot of cons make you pay for that stuff, so I was surprised that Disney of all people threw it in for free. And then, right outside of the convention center, was none other than Ashley Eckstein herself. The voice of Ahsoka Tano, the founder of her universe, that Ashley Eckstein. I was hoping to meet her at a different con I went to a few months ago and get her signature in my autograph sketchbook, but I straight up ran out of time. However, she had a few people come up and talk to her, so I figure I'd go up there too. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take and all that jazz. Anyways, I introduced myself, showed her the drawing, and she loved it. She even signed it there. She was so incredibly sweet and down to earth, like a lot of voice actors are. Miss Eckstein, if you're watching this video, hopefully we'll get to meet again someday. After that, con staff led us downstairs to a waiting room to get into the main entrance. It was around 8 o'clock when I got down there, so I sat down and got a bit of reading done. About a half hour later, we were ushered out of the room where we stood in line for more time until the doors opened. The best way I can describe going through the convention hall for the first time is chaotic. I mean, some of that is to be expected. It's the first few minutes of the convention and no one knows where anything is, so you're just kind of shuffling around until you can find something to do. Also, all the booths have huge lines because people want to be the first ones to do stuff. I had 2 hours to kill before the first thing I had scheduled for the day, so I decided to check out the Expo Marketplace. I've been a Disney fan for so long that I feel like I have most of the merch that I want, so there wasn't a ton there that caught my eye. I picked up a Snow White notebook, more on that in a sec, and a Cinderella print for my mom. I ended up doing mobile shopping, which was actually pretty easy and usable. You just had to scan the barcodes with your phone's camera and check out through the app. My first scheduled thing was a meet and greet, which I had a reservation for. All the reservations you got were already loaded onto your badge, so you just had to scan it and you were in, which was pretty convenient. The meet and greet was with the cast and crew of Hamster and Gretel, a new cartoon on the Disney Channel. I watched a couple of episodes and I liked it fine, but the meet and greet caught my eye because one of the people who was going to be there was Dan Povenmire, one of the creators of Phineas and Ferb and the voice of Dr. Doofenshmirtz. Meeting voice actors is one of my favorite parts about going to conventions. In fact, for the past few years, I've been collecting a lot of my autographs into a sketchbook. I'll draw one of their characters and then I'll get them to sign the drawing. I've done a lot of Disney characters and non-Disney characters, so I was hoping that I'd get to add a few more to the collection at D23. However, D23's autograph policies don't allow that. You aren't allowed to bring stuff from home to be signed. Now, I'm sure the people that run it have their reasons as to why this policy is in place. But for the life of me, I don't know why. So I was kind of bummed about that. But that's when I had a brainwave. Surely the expo is going to have some kind of journal or something for sale. What if I did the drawings in that, and then brought those to sign? So I thought I was like my clever way of getting around it. So for the Hamster and Gretel meet and greet, I drew the title characters for the cast to sign, and a Doofenshmirtz specifically for Mr. Povenmire. This isn't my best work by any means, I drew these in like 10 minutes, but I still thought they might get a kick out of it. You can imagine my surprise when I found out that the meet and greet was a photo op. You couldn't get anything signed, it was just a picture. So the money I spent on that journal and the time I spent on that drawing were all for naught. I guess that's what I get for not reading the schedule very closely. I did manage to show the drawings to them right as I went up there, and they seemed to like it. So there that is, I guess. Once that was done, I took a look around the convention hall for a bit. I visited the Disney Pixar booth, where there was a little bit of discussion going on about Cars Land. I went to the Walt Disney Hometown Museum's booth, and I just generally enjoyed the atmosphere. Anyways, there were a couple of exhibits advertised that I wanted to visit. One of them was about Walt Disney's plane. That hasn't been on public display for many years, so having it here was super exciting. I was planning on seeing it a different day, but there was like no wait on the first day, so I decided to go in right then and there. And it was really cool. You could take a picture with it, they had a lot of interesting artifacts related to it, and you even got free postcards on your way out. I actually went back and visited it again later that weekend, so that was definitely a highlight. As the day went on, it became very clear to me that one of the main targets of the D23 Expo is collectors, aka people who want to buy shit. Every other booth was some company who had Disney-related products that they wanted to sell you. Again, that's not really my thing, so a lot of the booths didn't really do much for me. There was one that got me, though. The Disney Publishing booth. If there's one thing I do enjoy buying, it's books. And they had a ton of Disney books, both fiction and nonfiction. I ended up grabbing this book commemorating Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary. I've wanted it since it was first announced, and it's been out of stock online everywhere, and I've never seen it in person, so this kind of felt like my only chance I had to get a copy. I would quickly come to regret this decision because it's an absolute brick. And there wasn't any room left in the place where you could check bags, so I had to carry that thing around for the rest of the day. I wandered around a little more. The Lucasfilm booth had some costumes from recent Star Wars and Indiana Jones productions. I got a little pin at the Target booth. If it kind of sounds like I'm repeating myself, it's because I was basically just trying to kill time until a panel at the end of the day. I ended up spending a lot of time at the D23 Live Lounge in the front of the exhibit hall. They live streamed a couple of panels. I caught a little bit of the Disney Legends discussion and interviews with MCU composers, which I thought were pretty interesting. They also had some special guests on stage and would interview them briefly. Eventually I realized trying to stay the whole day was going to be a losing battle, especially with carrying that huge book on my shoulders. So I peaced out at around 4 p.m. Day 2 was a convention first for me. It was the first time I ever cosplayed in public. I've been cosplaying for about a year now and have a small roster of characters under my belt. But for this convention, I went with one of my more recent ones. Being me, I had to make it something Haunted Mansion related. I went as Constance, specifically her from the stretching portrait. Partially because it's a pretty easy one to manage. It doesn't have a ton of layers, I don't have to wear a wig, and the makeup is pretty easy. I ended up oversleeping because I wasn't able to sleep until like 5 a.m. because my shoulder was killing me from carrying that goddamn book around. So I missed my scheduled panel about Disney Imagineering. Whatever, it is what it is. Some guy had a replica of Wally right out in front, and it was incredibly lifelike and well done.
Hey Wally, you're in the Criterion collection. How does that make you feel?
And all 3 days, there was an artist putting together a spray paint mural, and it was cool to see all of that come together. Here's their info if you're interested. As soon as I got inside, I went straight for the Walt Disney Archives exhibit. Next year will be the start of Disney's 100th anniversary, so this is meant to commemorate it. And there was some really cool stuff. They had costumes and props from movies like Mary Poppins and Tron. They had a bunch of old Mickey Mouse merch from the 30s. They even had an entire section dedicated to the Haunted Mansion at Walt Disney World, including the old Smurf Bride animatronic. I knew the archives had this, but seeing it in person was amazing. Also, they had a section dedicated to Disney Channel costumes, which was so surreal. Anyways, there's gonna be a bigger Disney 100 exhibit that's gonna be in a few US cities, so I'll definitely be checking that out too. In addition to the big vendors, there were some smaller vendors with booths, kind of like an artist alley at a regular convention. Some of them were artists, some of them were authors, some of them were just selling Disney stuff. One of my favorite ones to look through was the Van Eaton galleries, who are always doing auctions with a lot of Disney artifacts. They had some of the old hitchhiking ghosts from the Disney World Mansion, one of the ride vehicles from Snow White's Scary Adventures, and a prop from the queue of Adventures Through Inner Space that actually worked. I talked to one of the guys who ran it, and I actually own magazines with articles written by him. Always great to talk to fellow Disney historians. Once that was done, I went upstairs to get to a panel. One of the ones I wanted to get a reservation for but didn't was for the upcoming Disney Channel cartoon Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. I've been looking forward to it since it got announced. It's based on a Marvel comic, and the lead is one of the smartest characters in the Marvel universe. Also, one of the studios working on it is Flying Bark, who's done some amazing cartoons like Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Lego Monkey Kid. Anyway, since I didn't get a reservation, I had to go and stand by. I got there about 40 minutes before the panel and was one of the first in line, but I think everyone who stood in line was able to get in. However, once we got in line, we were asked to put our phones in little envelopes, and we were asked to keep them there for the entirety of the panel. I have never had this happen at any panel I've been to, even any panel I've been to at this convention. So my gut was telling me, oh, they're probably gonna show us something. Maybe some clips or a trailer that hasn't aired yet. Nope. They showed us the entire first episode, and it was just as amazing as I'd hoped. Afterwards, there was a brief Q&A with the cast and crew, and as another surprise, they gave us plushies of Devil Dinosaur. These aren't being sold anywhere yet. They only made enough for the people attending the panel. That was amazing, but getting to see some of the show was even more amazing. It's set to come out next year. Please watch it. It deserves all your love and support. After that, I went back down to the convention hall. The line for the Disney Parks booth was short, so I hopped right in. This booth was just outlining upcoming things coming to all of the different parks around the world. The first room was about the international parks. Shanghai is getting a Zootopia ride, Tokyo Disney Sea is getting a new section with Frozen, Tangled, and Peter Pan rides, Hong Kong's getting a Frozen Ever After, Paris is getting some cosmetic stuff, it looks like. Disneyland showed off what the new Toontown's gonna look like when it reopens. But you know me, and you know I mostly care about Walt Disney World, so let's talk about all that stuff. Most of Disney World stuff was about Epcot, as that's the park that's going through the biggest changes. The Moana Journey of Water has been under construction for a while, and they showed off some of what's gonna be there. There's gonna be a 16 feet tall statue of Te Fiti. I think it's great that Epcot's getting a walkthrough attraction like this, and I'll be happy when all those walls come down around it. They also had the new statue of Walt that's gonna be in the park. Not like a model or something, it's the actual statue. There's gonna be a little garden area behind Spaceship Earth, and he's gonna be sitting in it. They announced this at the last D23, and it's so cool to finally see the finished thing. But the biggest attraction of interest is probably Tiana's Bayou Adventure. They announced more story details and some of the new characters that are going to be in it. I am super excited for this ride. Tiana is one of my favorite Disney characters, and I'm so glad she's getting her own attraction. And I love that the ride's backstory is centered on her success. Basically, Tiana's place was so successful that she started a whole restaurant empire. I love that. It's going to be a great addition to both the Magic Kingdom and Disneyland. And if you're genuinely mad about it, too bad. I spent quite a bit of time at the Disney Animation booth over the weekend. Not only did they have some pretty cool things on display, like posters and maquettes, but there were some smaller panels being held at it. I got one on Wish, one of their next films that had gotten announced the night before. They didn't talk much about the film itself, but hearing all of these talented artists and filmmakers talk about their careers was a real treat. And that's basically all I managed to get done, because we had to leave early to get to DCA for Oogie Boogie Bash. More on that in the next video. day 3 of the convention didn't start until like 1 p.m. We were scheduled to stay at a hotel near the convention center for the first 3 nights, but on Sunday we had to move over to Paradise Pier Hotel, which is actually on Disney property. So doing that took up most of the morning. Also, I was just absolutely exhausted from the party the night before. I don't really recommend doing big Halloween parties right in the middle of a convention. I almost bagged the day because I didn't want to walk all the way back to the convention center. But I decided to just suck it up and head there anyways. Getting there was actually a lot easier than I thought it would be. It was only like a 20-minute walk. It's kind of nice that Disneyland is right in the middle of everything and you're not blocked off from the rest of society like you are at Disney World. And right as I was walking there, some guy was listening to the parks panel on his phone, and I heard Josh Namaro announce that the Hatbox Ghost was coming to the Disney World mansion. So, that's a thing. I got most everything I wanted to get done on the first 2 days, so today I was just kind of wandering around and doing nothing. I picked up the Aladdin Legacy Collection CD at the Music Emporium booth. Ever since they started doing these Legacy Collection compilations, I've wanted them to do Aladdin, and I'm so happy we have it now. It's great. I love that we finally have the complete score with all of the incidental music, and the songs have never sounded better. I ended up going back to the parks booth and explored it a bit more. In addition to the displays with posters and ride vehicles and models, there was some live entertainment. They had a little puppet show for the Zootopia exhibit. Tiana came out by the Tiana's Bayou Adventure display and did a little meet and greet. And someone even came out and did a demo with Magic Band Plus. There was also a separate booth that had one of the ride vehicles for the Tron roller coaster that you could actually go in and take a picture with. That's supposed to open sometime next year. For real this time. I ended up going to 2 panels today. The first one was Treasures from the Disney Animation Research Library. I have no footage from it because we weren't allowed to film anything, but it was a really interesting panel. They've apparently been interviewing current and former animators for an oral history project, and just having them share some of their stories. I really hope they plan on releasing some of this to the public because I am just fascinated by it. I'm sure there's just a metric goldmine of information in there. The second panel was at the very end of the day, and it was the one I was looking forward to the most. The Disney Character Voices panel. If you know me, you know I have particular love and admiration for voice actors. I think they're some of the most talented people in the business and don't get the respect they deserve. And saying this is incredibly timely given all the bullshit that's going down with Crunchyroll and the Mob Psycho 100 dub. Jesus Christ, just meet with SAG, you assholes. Kyle deserves to be in the dub. Anyways, I've been watching recordings of this panel at previous D23s, and they were always a hoot, so I knew I had to be there in person. And this was one I actually managed to get a reservation for, so I was guaranteed a place. And it was the highlight of my weekend. I'm sure someone's recorded this panel and uploaded it onto YouTube by the time this video goes up, so I highly recommend you seek that out. It made the entire weekend worth it. But that was the final panel of the day, and thus the D23 Expo came to a close. Okay, so let's say this video piqued your interest and you're thinking about attending a future expo. Well, allow me to give you some pointers and tell you what you need to bring with you. I've got 7 years worth of convention experience under my belt, so you know you can trust me. Deodorant. Please bring it and wear it. You're packed like sardines in a stuffy convention hall for hours. Pack it in your suitcase, wear it every day, bring some with you to the actual convention if you feel like you need to. Just please wear it. Everyone will hate you if you don't. Hand sanitizer. Con crud is real and you want to protect yourself as much as you can, especially with all these fucking viruses going around. So bring some hand sanitizer or one of those little packs of wet wipes you get at the travel section. Also, this D23 did require masking in certain situations, so and make sure you know those policies before you go and come prepared. Snacks. You need food to survive, and convention food is ridiculously expensive. Even if you're like me and feel like you can subsist off of vibes for the weekend, you still need to eat. Bring whatever snacks you like, granola bars, fruit snacks, Pop-Tarts, Lunchables, whatever you like as long as it's small and portable. And on that note, water. Don't pay $4 for a bottle of water. Bring one from home and refill it when you need it. A sewing kit. This one's for any cosplayers, especially the handmade ones. One wrong step and oops, you've destroyed your entire costume. So bring a small sewing kit with you. You don't need anything fancy. Needle, thread, safety pins, hot glue gun, whatever you think can hold until you're able to get home. If you're doing any kind of makeup, bring a small cosmetics bag with you to do touch-ups throughout the day. A time waster. If you're anything like me, then a lot of your time at conventions will be spent waiting in a line. For panels, for meet and greets, for exhibits, or anything like that. You'll have a lot of downtime and you'll probably get sick of doom scrolling on Twitter really quickly. So bring something to entertain yourselves. Bring a book, bring a journal, rent a movie to have on your phone, bring your iPod with headphones if you still have those. Whatever you think will work best for you, do it. Speaking of phones, portable chargers, all of them. Just bring all of them and make sure they're charged. You might get lucky and find an empty outlet, but chances are that people are already crowding around it. So take matters into your own hands and bring it with you. Sensible shoes. You're going to be on your feet all day. Make sure your footwear is comfortable. Even if the character you're cosplaying has wearing 10-inch heels, wear sneakers. No one is going to care that it's not accurate and your feet will thank you. Medicine. Cons last the whole day, so bring whatever meds you think you'll need. If you get headaches, bring some Advil. If you're worried about your bowels, bring something for that. No one knows your body better than you, so if you think you're gonna need it, bring it. Also bring tampons and pads if you use those, but you probably didn't need me to tell you that. Cash. Most of the vendors do take credit cards, but some are cash only, so make sure you have some with you. And get that shit sorted out beforehand so you aren't paying extras at the ATM. A fan. Convention halls can get stuffy, so bring some kind of portable fan with you. It could be one of those battery-operated ones you get at the dollar store. It could be a folding one that makes you feel like you're in a period drama. Whatever works for you. A folder. If you're like me, you're gonna end up with a lot of paper stuff, so bring some kind of folder or album for you to keep it all in. I got this one at a Daiso in Dallas 3 years ago, and it was the best $1.50 I've ever spent. Extra memory cards. Those videos and images can get big pretty quickly, so make sure you have storage to put it all in, whether you're filming it on a camera or on your phone. Unless you've got an iPhone, in which case, I don't know, make sure you have enough room before you leave. And that was just all of the stuff I thought about on top of my head. If there's something I forgot, leave it in the comments and tell me why I'm a terrible person for forgetting it. Now, I feel like I should say that my disappointments might be unfair. Because, again, I have been to a lot of conventions, and I feel like I know what makes one good. And I'm also aware that D23 isn't really a convention in the traditional sense. But I wanted to be completely honest with this video, and even with everything before, there were some things I was disappointed in. First of all, each of the booths had their own special events going on, with their own dedicated panels and presentations. And there was no way for you to find out what those were other than physically walking to the booths and reading the schedule yourself. The Disney Bundle booth had a discussion with Black creatives, including animator and director Bruce W. Smith, who I'm a huge fan of. I only got to watch part of that because I happened to be walking past the booth at the time. I only managed to catch the Wish panel at the Disney Animation booth because, again, I happened to be walking by and saw people sitting down and getting ready to watch it. There were some really interesting discussions happening, and there was no way to know about them unless you happened to be right by them. I feel like those could have been communicated a little better. I was also incredibly underwhelmed by the meet and greet opportunities. Not only could you not bring stuff from home to sign, which, again, I have no idea why, but some of them were just take a picture and leave. The reason I love convention meet and greets is because you can connect with people you admire and respect, even for just a couple of minutes. There wasn't much of an opportunity for that here, and that's really disappointing. Also, there were no meet and greets with voice actors, which, again, that's like the main reason I like going to conventions. In fact, for my personal interests, I got most everything I wanted to get done in the first 2 days. by the last day, I was just kind of wandering around and looking at stuff, which isn't completely worthless. Admittedly, this might be a me thing. I am terrible at estimating how many days I need at a con. Sometimes I'll get everything done in the first day and I'll just be wandering around for the rest of the weekend. Other times I'll overestimate what I can get done and I'll be panicking over not getting everything done. But I feel like with how much I paid for tickets, there should have been more there for me. Like I said, I'm not much of a shopping person, and that was the majority of the booze. I could have used more stuff like the Disney 100 exhibit, or Walt's Plane, or the Disney Parks booth. Even like one more exhibit like that might have made the difference. That's not to say the disappointments were enough to sour me on the convention entirely. No, there were still plenty of great stuff that kept me going. Even though I wish there was more things like it, the exhibits were all great. They had really interesting things on display, and the staff present were always willing to answer questions to the best of their ability. Particularly at the Parks booth, they had a bunch of Imagineers there that you could talk to and ask them about the projects they were working on. And on that note, the people. That's the best part of any convention. You're surrounded by people who like the same things that you do and won't judge you for nerding out. It's not like being a nerd is like illegal or anything, but in your daily life, you don't always get to talk to people who like the same things that you do. And even though I love sharing all of this with you in my little corner of the internet, seeing all of these artists and cosplayers and enthusiastic fans who love the same things you do in real life, there's just nothing else like it. I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I feel a little burnt out by just talking about Disney on this channel, especially for these past few months. But seeing all of these amazing things and meeting all of these amazing people, it makes me feel invigorated. This was just the refresher I needed. I'm ready to get back to work for making new content to you guys, and sharing all the information I have with you. Okay, so we went over everything that happened to me during the weekend. I've talked about the stuff I saw, the stuff I liked, and the stuff I didn't like. Now we come to the conclusion. Did I enjoy the D23 Expo? Yes. Was everything to my personal taste? Not exactly. But for everything I didn't like or wasn't that crazy for, there was something that I did like and was crazy for. The atmosphere and the experiences are things I'm never going to forget. Would I attend again? I'm not sure. I did see a lot of amazing things, but a lot of the things I love from traditional cons just weren't there. And with tickets being so much more expensive than the usual con, if I had to choose between this or a plain old regular convention, I think I'd pick the convention. That's not to say I'm ruling out coming back to D23 entirely. There's a long time for me to think about that, and I could change my mind when that time comes. But for now, I think I'll stick with my usual stuff. Though, again, I'm glad I went, and I don't regret it at all. These were, of course, my personal experiences. The stuff I love about conventions might not be for you, and the stuff I didn't care for might have convinced you to come in the future. Again, this isn't supposed to be any kind of definitive review of D23. This is just me sharing my experiences and everything that happened to me while I was there. Maybe it appeals to you, maybe it doesn't. Either way, I hope this video will help you come to that conclusion yourself. And that concludes the video. Thank you so much for watching. I've been gone for a few weeks because of this, but I'm back now, and we're back to regular videos very soon. For now, I'll pass the question off to you. Have you been to D23 before? Do you plan on attending in the future? Does any of this sound appealing to you? Whatever your thoughts, let me know down in the comments. But that's all the time I've got for today. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care. Thank you.